It's Friday night in East Lansing. Come on in, gather around. Jim Comparoni, SpartanMag.com. Glad to have you back. Sorry I'm a little bit late getting started this week. Took a little extra time over at the practice field. Had some baseball practice. Got a lot of things done over there. Had a good time. Hope everybody's off to a good start this weekend. Thanks to those of you that are joining us live. Hope those of you that are up north had a good, safe drive. Hope everybody's doing well all over the country. We're going to talk some Michigan State sports like we normally do every Friday night. This is the second time we've done it this week because we had one of these on Monday, and that was good. This one's going to be good. We got questions from the mailbag. Go ahead and post some questions of your own live here, and we will be fielding those and having a good time. Talking Michigan State sports in June, counting down toward, getting into July in a few days, right? College football season, hoping so. Hoping that's going to be the case. I'm going to go right into the questions and tell you a little bit more about Spartan Magazine here in a moment. Let's go to the questions. Question number one, posted over at the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com by Brad from Race City, USA. Thanks, Tom Keller. Gather around. Absolutely, gather around. Brad says, Jim, have you heard how they are grouping players? Are they going by position or random, etc.? There may be an inherent danger of wiping out an entire position if someone tests positive. That's from Brad in Race City. What Brad is talking about is Michigan State beginning with voluntary workouts this week after the second round of testing for COVID-19. They tested on Monday, had 2 more positives. There was 1 positive last week. 2 or 3 or 4 more have also been quarantined because of their contact with others or with them. So I think they tested 125 people, something like that. So now the 125 includes men's and women's basketball players, maybe 1 or 2, a few others from some other sports, but mainly all the returning football players. Freshmen will be coming later. They'll be testing a little bit later. So the question is, now that those have tested clean twice in a row, they will begin optional workouts. So he's asking, how are they dividing up those workouts? Well, you're asking if it's by position. The answer is no. They're dividing them up based on who they live with, because they figure those guys are going to be around those people anyway. So if Rocky Lombardi is rooming with a couple of offensive linemen, he'll be working out with those offensive linemen. For the most part, players room with players from their position. So there's going to be a lot of that. You make a good point. If they have to shut down an entire group of 8 offensive linemen, it could wipe out the whole team. I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that if all the offensive linemen, you can't have all offensive linemen. It's not like they've got all 15 offensive linemen all living in the same house on, Beale Street or Sunset, in East Lansing off campus or something. A couple of streets I used to live in back in the old days, in the late 80s, early 90s. So they'll be dividing up, the offensive line will be divided up that way. But you make a good point. What are the chances that, all the starting defensive backs already live together? It's a good question. But you know what? They may have taken some measures on the way back to town, because Xavier Henderson and Trey Person and Shaq Brown, they did not live together during the quarantine, of course. They were back home in Georgia and Ohio. So now that they're back on campus, I wouldn't doubt if they said, hey guys, we don't want you all living together. You'll work out separately. I'm not sure. That's a great question. I'll have my ear to the ground on that. I've got some sources. We'll find out a little bit more about that, but that's a great question. But basically, to answer your general question, they are dividing them up into workout groups based on who they live with, because that just makes sense. That's who they're around the most. SpartanMag.com. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher of SpartanMag.com. Been doing this nonsense since way back in 1993. And then the internet came around, gave birth to SpartanMag.com. Been having a lot of fun. A lot of the maggers, we appreciate they're here. We appreciate the support that they have. Go over to SpartanMag.com. If you're not familiar with it, become a subscriber. We'd love to have you over there. Subscribe to this channel. Also give us a thumbs up. In the meantime, Justin Thin wants me to tell you guys, and I want to do this too, but it's a good idea from Justin Thin, who's doing a good job with us, doing a really good job with us, kind of an intern with us. He's not a journalism major. He's got a better major, but he's doing some journalism on the side, bringing him along. Shows a lot of promise. He's a lot of fun. Look forward to working more with him. He's very enthusiastic. He's doing a lot of work with our Twitter site, The Spartan Mag. I'm at Jim Comparoni. It's on Twitter, but Spartan Mag is its own Twitter handle. So if you do a search at Twitter for The Spartan Mag, there will be some news that gets tweeted from there that's not tweeted from me. And go over there, The Spartan Mag. Give The Spartan Mag a follow on Twitter. I think we've got about 800 followers there now. Just something new we're trying to get going. We'd like to push that up to a couple thousand real quickly. Like I said last week, we're real close to 2,000 followers here. We appreciate that. Appreciate the questions also. Question number 2 from Sparty his name is Sparty from Pawleys Island, South Carolina. He says, hey, Jim, just wondering if you have a bucket list of stadiums or arenas that you would like to see for football or basketball. I would personally love to see a game at West Point or Colorado Springs. For basketball, I would like to see Cameron Indoor or Hinkle Fieldhouse. Thanks for all you do. I agree with you about Hinkle. I've never been there. Thanks, Seth, for following over there. I've never been to Hinkle Fieldhouse. Or is it Hinkle Auditorium? It's Hinkle Fieldhouse, right? But where Butler plays, I've driven by it. I've never been in there. I'd like to see a game there. And I'm kind of surprised that Izzo has not scheduled a game at Butler. Izzo's very enthusiastic about playing games at various locales, some of the historic locales. And Hinkle is a place he's not played yet, overdue for a visit there. Old Tuck, the bell cow. Thank you, Old Tuck from Austin via Ludington for the personal sponsorship today. Appreciate that from you, my man. I'll get to your question in a minute. I saw it. Thank you. So Hinkle, I've not been there. Cameron Indoor, I've been there. That was good. You know, I was there. I've been there 2 or 3 times. First time I was there, I was surprised by a number of things. But there are some brass guardrails like around the second deck. It's not really a second deck, but a second terrace. And those guardrails, that brass was a shiny brass. It was the shiniest brass I've ever seen. Maybe not the shiniest I've ever seen, but it was shiny. I was like, well, that's a nice touch. And then up there in the championship banners, they're surrounded by brass as well. Not really like second deck. Thank you. The second deck at Cameron. That was cool. The outside of Cameron Indoor, I think it's limestone. It looks like a church or something. It looks kind of gothic. That surprised me a little bit. That's a great atmosphere, you know. Everyone knows that. I've never been to Fog Allen. Michigan State's played at Fog Allen a couple times. I didn't go. I'd like to go there. I suspect, you know, I hear great things about it. I suspect that I think I would like it better than Cameron, actually. I hear you on West Point. I would like to see a game there. My friend Mike Valeni has seen a lot of games there. And I like Army football a lot. And I'd like to see that. They've got the mountains there. They've got the Hudson River. Picturesque. Looks great on television. I agree. That would be cool. Almost went to a game in Annapolis years ago, but didn't. But some of the other ones, I like to see some of the big, loud, obnoxious stadiums like the Swamp, some of the Southern football. I've never been to an SEC home game on a Saturday. I've been in SEC country for bowl games, but I've not gone to like Sanford Stadium at Georgia. I'd like to see that. Tuscaloosa, you know, there's a lot wrong with that place, but the enormity and the loudness, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. Not only the enormity, but the loudness if they've got it rocking. And the tailgating with the boats. Speaking of tailgating with the boats, Seattle, Husky Stadium would be kind of cool, I would say. You know, the old Cotton Bowl in Dallas, the old one. Everybody says it's a dump. I'm sure it is, but there's so much history there. I watched so many Cotton Bowls growing up. On New Year's Day, the first game New Year's Day used to be back in the old days, Lindsey Nelson. And I've seen the old Cotton Bowl when I was at the new Cotton Bowl in 2014 and 2015. I could see it from my hotel room. By the way, a Spartan Mag hooked me up with a great hotel accommodations at the Media Hotel for the Cotton Bowl both years. Outstanding. And I could see the old Cotton Bowl way out in the distance. I know that's an old, tired old stadium, and they still play bowl games there. What is it, the Military Bowl? And if you're in the Military Bowl, you probably did not have that great of a season. But still, I'd like to go to the Cotton Bowl and just be miserable. I'd like to see it. Um, I like mountains, so I was looking forward to going to BYU this year. Not sure if that's going to happen. I suspect they'll play the game, but I'm not sure if there's going to be any media access. I don't know who they would allow in the press box, if they might have pool reporters. I suspect there won't be much in the way of post-game interviews. I mean, face-to-face contact with players, that's going to be out. I suspect there will be interviews via Zoom. So, not sure I'm going to make it to BYU this year. Got my fingers crossed on that. So, BYU at the mountains. And you mentioned, Colorado Springs with Air Force. I suspect that's, Air Force has a cool stadium too. I remember the mountains there. I wouldn't necessarily, Utah has never really caught my interest. There's probably some interesting stadiums in the Mountain West Conference that I'm overlooking or underrating. I liked the stadium when Michigan State played in the Sun Bowl. It's just a little old stadium, kind of dumpy, but I like the mountains back there, the desert stuff going on. I like that old stadium. I like the Yale Bowl out of curiosity. I might want to go see that. Yale-Harvard game in the Yale Bowl. The playing surfaces in the Ivy League, not so great sometimes, but if I find a playing surface with some grass instead of artificial turf, I think that'd be great. There's probably an Ivy League football field that I don't know about that I'm overlooking, like Brown or Dartmouth or something like that. That's probably outstanding that I don't know about. So, basketball-wise, Hinckley, the Pit in Albuquerque. I like to go there, see what all the noise is about. The Palestra, Michigan State played there a couple years ago. I did not go. I blew that. I should have went. And I like I loved the Palestra back before it was cool to like the Palestra. Check out Christopher Trainum. Thank you for that sponsorship. $10. Appreciate that. Old Tuck, appreciate yours. $1.99. Give me the discount sponsorship. Giving it at SpartanMag.com. It's funny, Old Tuck. I like it. I like all that. We appreciate the sponsorships and all the support, all the maggers all over the country. Let's go to question number 3. Cousin of Sparty, one of the favorites, very controversial magger, says, any guess as to the next basketball commitment? The beast needs to be fed. Keep feeding the beast. He's just always wanted to know about basketball recruiting. Bless his heart. And this is something we talked about for a few weeks. 3 or 4 weeks ago, it looked like Jaden Akins was on the verge, maybe 5 weeks ago now, on the verge of committing. Then it didn't happen. Max Christie was looking good. There was some confidence, and he started to hear that from other angles. That's when I came on here and gave the confidence meter at 64%. Corey Evans from Rivals.com has been speaking with Max Christie, and he says Max Christie is adamant about wanting to wait to make a decision and take more visits. So if he wants to wait, that goes against some of the indications I was getting, some of the confidence meter over at Breslin Center, the Berkowitz Center. Things were looking good, but now that Christie wants to wait, not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm scaling down the confidence meter. It was 64% here 2 weeks ago. I'm going to ratchet that back down to 54%, maybe 54.5%. Still think Michigan State's the favorite right now, but my confidence is not what it was 2 weeks ago. So you're asking any guess on the next commitment? I thought it was Akins for a while. Didn't happen. Thought it was going to be Christie. Didn't happen. So now I'm not even going to take a guess on that, and I'm not hearing anything. Sometimes those basketball commitments happen overnight, out of nowhere. That could happen. But any guess? I don't have a good educated guess right now after those two have kind of stalled. You look at someone like Bediako or the power forwards like Sohan, something like that. That might be more of a possibility right now. Someone like Sohan, the stretch four who does his prep schooling over at La Lumiere in northern Indiana. Question number 4, Gator from Novi, Michigan says, do you think that Jason Novak was talking into Mel Tucker's ear about tight end Jake Renda? Jake Renda, the tight end. Michigan State just got an offer, or he just got an offer from Michigan State a few days ago. Good-looking tight end, originally from New Jersey, transferring to IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. So now Michigan State offers. And interesting ranking. I mean, he's got all kinds of excellent offers, but it's just a 2-star in the SpartanMag.com the Rivals.com database right now. I think that has something to do with moving from New Jersey to Florida. The Florida people haven't looked at him yet. I think he'll be at least a 3-star, probably a high 3-star once that all takes place. But did Jason Novak get into Mel Tucker's ear about it? Jason Novak was strength coach at IMG Academy in Florida. Jake Renda finished his junior year at Notre Dame Prep in Lawrenceville, New Jersey this spring and announced on Twitter he was going to IMG in May. So in May he announced that. So he's not actually gone enrolled at IMG yet. To make a long story short, Jason Novak, who was strength coach at IMG, did not work with Renda at IMG. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I hope I don't have my chronology on that wrong, but Novak left IMG. Renda hasn't gotten there yet. I'm sure it's happened before, but that's one of the first times I've seen a high school player announce a transfer to another high school via Twitter. That was interesting. So no, he was not in his ear. I don't think Jason Novak, Michigan State's new strength coach, ever worked with Renda at IMG. Come on in, gather round. Let's talk a little more Michigan State sports. Go ahead and post some questions. I'll get to those in a moment. Appreciate all the people that are here. Again, I'm going to send a tweet right now to invite some of the worldwide riffraff. And there goes the tweet. Question number 5, Jeremy from Hazlet, Michigan. Any idea, Jim, on plans for fundraising for the Munn Ice Arena project? He says, I know Izzo was a public kickoff, but I wonder if there's any idea of Danton Cole driving some funds with alumni. Yeah, Izzo donated, $1 million to the Munn refurbishment expansion. It's up on Munn Field. They're going to have a Hall of History, kind of like Breslin, smaller, and Players Lounge and workout facilities. Right now, Players Lounge and the locker room, everything is below ground, so it was always impossible to add space to the Players Lounge, and they didn't have a weight room there. So other programs have better bells and whistles than Michigan State hockey. They've been working to rectify that situation, bring out the old wooden Sherwood hockey stick. I'm not a pom-pom waver, but that's a pretty cool wooden hockey stick right there from back when Anastas had the women's clinic. Remember the women's hockey clinic? My wife was there and she got this. So no, I didn't buy this or anything, but it's pretty cool. Nothing like a wooden hockey stick. Made in Queensville, Ontario, as it should. So, what's going on with the fundraising with that thing? By the way, I went over there last week to look at it, and it was the first time I've driven through campus since the Ohio State game, the basketball game, when Michigan State clinched to share the Big Ten title. I had not been through campus since March 9th or whatever day that was. And it was eerie. It was a Saturday or a Sunday, and I mean, not a creature was stirring. I mean, nothing. It was apocalyptic. It was pretty, but no. I mean, you could have done cartwheels up and down the road. I took a look at the, I guess, not the awning, but whatever the top of the thing that they're building at Munn. It's coming out, so you're starting to get a look for that. I took some pictures. Maybe I'll post some pictures over at SpartanMag.com. Look, it's got a nice look to it. It's going to be real nice. And Michigan State has the ability to have a Hall of History, a real nice one. It'll be the newest one in the country. It'll be a nice one, and it'll be attractive to recruits. They'll have their own workout area. The hockey players currently lift weights, I think, at the football building or at Breslin. I'm not sure which. So that'll help. You're asking about any new plans for fundraising. They're always looking for the big donors. And for a while there, they were looking into possibly building a new arena. I'm glad they didn't. No need for a new arena. Just make Munn better. There's some history there. It's good. Leave that. Spruce it up. No need to pour $80 million or whatever into a new hockey arena. So I think this is good. To answer your question, I know that there are some that they're looking to continue to pay for that thing, and construction on the new Munn refurbishment or addition to it was on hold during the lockdown, of course. But you know, my son's a hockey player. My wife likes hockey. We get tickets and go to Michigan State games once in a while. It's not like we have season tickets, but hey, we're not doing anything on a Saturday. Let's get online. Let's get tickets. Let's go to the game. Sometimes I'll go as a member of the media. Sometimes I'll go as part of the ticket buying public. So because we've bought some tickets here and there, we were on some sort of mailing list. And we did receive about 2 weeks ago a pamphlet, asking us if we would donate to help with the I think it said for the Munn project. I'm not going to do that, of course. I'm not a donor, not a booster. I'm a media member. I'll go watch games and that type of thing, but you don't need your media making donations. That's unethical. That goes on though. That does happen, but not going to happen here. But anyway, to answer your question, there was a mailing that went out to people that are on their mailing list trying to solicit donations. So you're asking about plans for fundraising. That's a small one down at the grassroots level. Be interesting to see if any more major donors come forward. Question number 6 from McCune13 from Missouri says, "Hey Jim, I was wondering, how do you think the extended dead period for recruiting will affect the Spartans? Will it hurt or help us in getting recruits?" Well, it's going to hurt, but it's hurting everybody. The dead period was extended to like July 31st or through August 31st, right? I should know that. It was July 31st. Now it's extended to August 31st. So that puts further clamps on it. There was a big flurry of commitments back in March and April with some of the recruits that were comfortable making a decision, some of which haven't visited campuses. So they wanted to go ahead and save their seat at the table at various programs. But when things open back up again, whether it's fall or winter or whenever, you'll see more visits, and I think you'll see some decommitments, and you'll see another reshuffling. The number of commitments, I was just talking to somebody in the recruiting industry today, and I think year over year there were almost twice as many spring commitments nationwide. So that was a busy time, but I think there will be decommitments later, and it'll just make following recruiting that much more interesting in the months ahead. It's a strange time. It's an uncertain time, and that boils over to recruiting. Does it hurt Michigan State? I'm going to say no, because it's hurting everybody. It hurts Michigan State a little bit because it's not an established product, whereas a program like Ohio State or Penn State that's more established, once they decide they want somebody, they're going to have a little more power to get somebody than Michigan State that's just getting started. Michigan State, they're going on, the personality of Mel Tucker, the aggressiveness of Mel Tucker and his staff. I mean, there's a lot of aggressive staffs out there with good personality. Michigan State can match a lot of those now. Also, they're able to tell people they'll have a shot at early playing time at some positions, which is something Michigan State has sold successfully in the past. But if you're able to sell that, that means that your program is down a little bit. And Michigan State's program is down a little bit right now. So they can sell that. And anytime there's a new coach who's recruiting his guys, he can be pretty forthright in saying, we want you, I see you being somebody that's going to play right away. That helps with recruiting. But you saw a lot of commitments in March and April. I'm not going to call that low-hanging fruit, but those were guys that were ready to make a decision. Now they're into that group of people that are holding off, waiting to see more. Let me see if I can get some questions here in the chat area. I'll get that loaded in a second. In the meantime, let's go to BG in East Lansing. He says, Jim, do you have any insight on how many commitments the coaching staff is looking to add on the defensive line for 2021? We already have 2, Watson and Harmon, and appear to be in on a handful more. For example, Damon Payne, Rayshawn Benny, Davon Townley out of Minnesota, and a handful of other offers out there. You can never have too many D linemen. You can never have too much D-line depth. I agree with that. Defensive line, always very important, but it's hard to recruit more than 4, sometimes 5 a year. You don't have that type of room. Mel Tucker said earlier this week during a Zoom chat, it was Tucker and Izzo, and I think Beekman had a Zoom chat with some of Michigan State's leading donors. And during that chat, Tucker said he's expecting a full class of 25 recruits. They've got 10 right now. I don't see where they have room for 25 until and unless they have some players, some attrition take place. I suspect they would have liked to have watched the players, of course, during spring practice to get an idea of where the talent is, but also to get an idea of where they might need to trim. I've thought it's been unethical over the years for teams to kick people off the team and make cuts. That's what Alabama's done. That's what Michigan's done. A few programs have done that. Mark Dantonio was always reluctant to do that. But, what's that say? Dan Simon? Dan Simon, my man. Thanks for the sponsorship. Appreciate that a lot. Appreciate all you guys. Hope that's as fun for you as it is for us. Thanks, man. We appreciate the support for the work we put in, and appreciate you having you stop by here on a Friday night. So, Seth Foreman checking in with the personal sponsorship. Thanks, Seth. Pour him a drink, slide it down the bar. Appreciate it. Thanks, Seth. Seth's here. Seth's a regular here. He's got season tickets here. Appreciate him. Thanks, Seth. Now, as far as so they're looking for 4 or 5 defensive linemen. They've got 2, so I'd expect 2 more. And I'm expecting Michigan State to have some cuts for attrition. Not the easiest way to do things, but Michigan State now is kind of getting in that fast lane for recruiting to do things like that. That's what it takes to compete with some of these programs. Dantonio was reluctant to do it. Noble of him to be reluctant to cut people. He always felt that if he offered somebody a scholarship and they came and they worked hard and they weren't as good as the coaches thought, he thought that was on the coaches, including himself. They made the mistake. They'll live with it. They were not going to ask somebody to leave the program. There were some guys that left the program that were third stringers that they would have liked to have kept. There was the Duran kid. There was the offensive lineman that transferred to Western Michigan on good terms. Dantonio would have liked to have kept them. However, Dantonio was saddled a few times with recruiting classes of 17 and 18 players because he had such little attrition through most of his career. That led to smaller recruiting classes year after year after year, classes of 17, 18 guys, 19 guys, 17 guys, 18 guys. And when that happens with small classes, then when you do get that one class with a 33% attrition, you're only left with 9 or 10 players, and you get hit. It when you have small classes like that, it makes the margin for error decrease, and you have to be even better. So there's good and bad with that. If you have a good program where nobody's leaving, you can have a lot of red shirts, have a lot of loyal, mature players by the time they're fifth-year seniors, but margin for error grows thin. You're asking about defensive linemen. Damon Payne, number 1 player in the state, Belleville. Looks like he's going to be headed to an SEC school. Terrific defensive lineman. Might be the best defensive line junior film I've seen in the state of Michigan in the internet era, which means ever. I'm not saying he's the best ever, but he's the best junior film that I've seen from a defensive tackle in the state of Michigan. Michigan State's trying to work with him, but not a favorite at this point. You mentioned Rayshon Benny. Rayshon Benny's also more of an offensive line prospect, I'd say, right now. But Michigan State's in there trying to slug it out with him. I think that's Michigan versus Michigan State for him. You mentioned Townley, the kid from Minnesota. I talked to Corey Robinson a little bit about him, and Corey Robinson doing a great job covering recruiting for us. Paul Konadike doing a great job, Spartan Magazine. Rico Beard, I haven't talked to Rico in a long time. I got to reach out to him, see how he's doing. Big Movie, I'm coming after you. Got to talk to you soon also. And Rico Cooney does a great job. Justin Thin, great job. The whole bench. Really blessed to have good people. SpartanMag.com. And SpartanMag.com recruiting writer, former recruiting writer, Spartan Magazine, SpartanMag.com, Hall of Famer Matt Dorsey, one of the great ones of all time. Very good friend. and appreciate all the things he's done over the years. And he still posts over at SpartanMag.com, does a great job. Anyway, I was talking to Corey Robinson a little bit about Townley, and he agrees with a lot of the rumbling out there that it looks like Minnesota, the Gophers, are probably the leading candidate to get him, but Michigan State's been in on him, and Michigan State had a Zoom meeting with him yesterday, so Michigan State probably impressed him a little bit more, but you can tell they're working on him, and he's more of a thinner, outside edge defensive lineman type. I've not watched his film yet. I'll be looking to see how well he turns the corner. How about MM Drippy? MM Drippy with the mineral water probably tonight. Let me know what you're drinking, MM Drippy. All you guys, let me know what kind of beverage you're consuming tonight. Let us know, and feel free to give a review of whatever your refreshment of choice is tonight. All right, let's see if we can get into the hello feedback there. Getting a little rain in East Lansing tonight. We need it. The lawns have been looking a little bit dried up lately. All right, let's see here. Old Tuck batting leadoff. The bell cow was the first one to check in. Good job, Old Tuck. Jason Ritchie saying all day IPA. Good for you. That's a Michigan brew, right? MM Drippy says they ran out of spring water, so he got some purified water tonight. Drippy likes his water, as he should. Can't blame him. I'm a water guy, too. Old Tuck, I respect Drippy and the other regulars, but the Big Toe and the Bell Cow are the originals. Oh, Tuck. Old Tuck. Old Tuck not afraid to blow his own horn. Just don't blow it around here. You can blow your own horn. Just don't. We don't need any film of it. Gordon Tenona says, sorry about that. Gordon Tenona says, what schools are the helmets from behind you? Well, that was a sore subject. For a lot of weeks, I tried to keep those so you could see they were helmets, but you couldn't really see what the helmets were. But it's Penn State because I love Penn State's old helmet. I probably bought that before James Franklin was hired. Pitt, the old Pitt, the mustard yellow Pitt, the Tony Dorsett Pitt helmet. Nebraska and Oklahoma, because I think Nebraska and Oklahoma used to be cool. Nebraska might get back to being cool someday. I don't know. But, the old Switzer, Osborne era type of thing. So I got a Pitt-Penn State rivalry helmet. Got an Oklahoma-Nebraska old rivalry helmet. I've got Army, and I've got UCLA. The old UCLA with the thin script. Not the they made it thicker lately. That's the thinner script. Like the Rick Neuheisel, JoJo Townsell era UCLA. And the other one is the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL. I don't know what's going on with the CFL. They're supposed to be starting play about right now, and there was a lot of worry that league was going to go under. And I meant to do some searches tonight to see what was going on with that. I know they appealed to the Canadian government for some help, but if the CFL is not kicking off now, they're probably not going to have a season for obvious reasons. And I don't know if that league can survive a year without football. They don't have a great TV contract. It's Canada, right? They get a little bit of money from ESPN in August, and then when American football starts, then Canadian football falls off the map for ESPN. But they get decent ratings on ESPN in August. And I like the CFL. A lot of you that grew up in the Detroit area might remember back when there was only 3 channels. You got Channel 50 also, and Channel 20 didn't have much sports, but 50 did, and Channel 9 out of Windsor had sports, a lot of sports, including Canadian football. So if you're my age and you grew up in the Detroit area, on Saturday nights when you were 12, 13, 14 years old, there's no other sports on a Saturday night, if you can believe that. I'm talking like pre-cable. So like Canadian football was the sport that was on. If it was August 15th on a Saturday, unless the Tigers were on the road, then they would be on. But if they were on the road on a Saturday, it was probably a day game. So Saturday night, a lot of times, the sports option in the Detroit area in like 1982 was CFL. Some of you are sick enough to have done that, and I'm certainly in that category. I spent a lot of time in Canada in the summer. Not this year, can't go over there. And some of the people that we, I don't know, you don't see it much anymore, but when I first started going over there were some Hamilton Tiger Cat fans. I thought that was amusing. So I'm a Tiger Cat supporter. They were in the Grey Cup last year. So that's it. And then you've got these Michigan State helmets, John L. Smith era, Perlis era, and then these are bowl helmets. Capital One Bowl, Outback Bowl, Rose Bowl, Rose Bowl. The Cotton Bowl did not have a mini helmet. So I'm thinking about making my own. Does that count? Would that be wrong? I don't know. But thanks for asking. Depend. Thanks for the sponsorship, Depend, and thanks for all your help with trying to get some things going with the MSU alumni clubs. We'd like to get a partnership between SpartanMag.com and those alumni clubs. And appreciate all your help. Dave Pendle. Shouldn't say your name. Sorry about that, Dave. But very giving of his time to try to support what we're doing at SpartanMag.com. A guy I've known for a long time, professionally, gotten reacquainted with him again here in the last few months. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. All right, somebody, I was going to get to it. Okay, so Old Tuck with his sponsorship says, I hate hate University of Michigan. Tell me something to increase my hatred. What's I think you know everything that's I don't have anything for you. Sorry, Big Toe. If something comes up, I'll let you know. But I think you probably have enough material in that category. Chris Trainham with his sponsorship, his question comes to the front. Also, he says, with the increase in COVID cases, do you foresee a more regional Big Ten football season and or no early signing period? Keep up the great work, Comp. Great question. No early signing period. That's very much a possibility if players do not get a chance to make a lot of visits in September, October, November. Yeah, I could see. No, you know what? There won't be no early signing period. What you would see, some of the people that are ready to make their decision will go ahead and sign. They won't cancel the December signing period. Those that want to go ahead and sign will still be allowed to, I'm sure of it. But there might be way fewer that sign early this year compared to other years if visits continue to be halted. So he also asked, with the increase of COVID cases, do you foresee a more regional Big Ten football season? It has changed a lot here in the last week or so. A lot more cases. Younger people now, they're saying. However, not a lot of deaths. I mean, one death is too bad, too many, right? But I'm wondering if this is something that people are going to start to think is somewhat manageable. I don't know much about epidemiology. I don't want to be too wackadoodle about this because it is kind of unknown. Some of the things are unknown. But more regional football season, I don't know if that's an answer. You keep hearing the athletic directors talk about they meet every day to talk about the latest, and the conference commissioners meet with the ADs to talk about the latest, and they talk about any number of eventualities and scenarios. Some of the scenarios, of course, include a full season. Sometimes it's no season. Sometimes it's half season with the other half played in the spring. So it's all over the map. Just a Big Ten season. Then you get the athletic director at Arkansas State who said several weeks ago that he says, I've got a contract with the University of Michigan. We are supposed to play them on September whatever. We are going to be there, and we are going to expect our check. That was several weeks ago. Things could change quite a bit in the coming weeks, but some of those, a lot of people think that if you just do conference games, that somehow can curtail things or just keep things in-house in the family. That might be some sort of mitigating effort to have some sort of season. That might be true, but in the meantime, you've got contracts with mid-major teams who are expecting that big fat check, that guaranteed money to help fund their entire athletic departments. They need it. They expect it. So if you're Michigan State and you decide, okay, we're just going to play Big Ten games, we're not going to play against, who does Michigan State play this year? Western Michigan or Central Michigan? One of those directionals. That might make sense for yourself if you think that fewer games somehow is safer, but there's somebody knocking on your door right now saying, hey, we got a contract, pay me. Let's have this game. That is if they're having their season as well. So I don't know if I see this concept of just conference seasons, just conference games. I think if you're playing and another team's playing, I think they're going to show up and play the game. Unless they feel that things are not quite safe enough to play in September and somehow it becomes safer in October, whereas most people think it's going to be the opposite, that the further we go into the fall, the more there'll be a second wave and a spike and those type of things. As far as the spike that's going on right now, Arizona, Florida, Texas, I thought it was interesting that I heard somebody say, and I heard someone else talk about the possibility that those states, because it's so hot there now, this is the time of year where they're spending more time indoors, especially at workout facilities and office buildings, which have been opened back up. And they're indoors. There's so much air conditioning that it's kind of like we were up here in the north in March and April. We were all indoors because it was still kind of chilly and cold up here, so we were spending more time indoors. So we had a spike up here in the north, and down south had less of a spike because they were spending more time outdoors. Now it's flipped. Now up north, we're outdoors more, and in the south, they're indoors more. You can tell me if I'm wrong about that. I wonder if that has an impact on anything. I'm just a sports writer. I don't know. I just hope we get a handle on things soon. I do like the way that some of the things are going in terms of it not seeming as bad as we feared in the March. But those of you that have had it, and some of my friends have had it and still have it, having a tough time with it. So I don't mean to say it's not a big deal. It certainly is. Obviously. Let's see here. What do we have? Tom Kelly saying, gather round. Seth Foreman, it's a great day. It's a great day for a YouTube live chat. Thanks. Appreciate your enthusiasm, Seth. Tom Kelly says, I just tested positive for loving Spartan Mag. Tom Kelly is positive. And there's no vaccine for that, Tom. So deal with it. Glad you tested positive. Chris Trainham, after a 2-week hiatus, he's back. Maul286 back in the house. Thanks, Maul. Maul286, that's his name over at the Underground Bunker message board, SpartanMag.com. Appreciate his support over there. Rob South, 829 with mine just now. Just followed, Seth Foreman says. Old Tuck, I'm still trying to think of something to make you hate Michigan more. You know, I don't spend much time dwelling on that. It's probably not very healthy. I've got a lot of things. I'm sure you may have read the book, what is it? Scheming and Arrogance in the Big Ten, written by a Notre Dame graduate about Michigan. There's some things in there that will just strengthen your worldview on those things. Let's go back to the mailbag. BG in East Lansing says, do you have any insight on how many commitments? No, we've already read that one. But I want to say something else. You're talking about Townley, the defensive lineman from Minnesota. Corey Robinson says, Michigan State's putting some time in. Maybe they'll get some love from Townley at some point. But the Gophers, the hometown Gophers, are going to be hard to beat for Townley. But Michigan State's sticking their foot in the water, going after it. As far as D-line goes, there'll be other players coming up and getting on the radar. I still have my eye on Ruquan Buckley a little bit. Let me see here. I'll just double check to make sure that there's nothing new about Barkley. He's from Wyoming, Michigan, Godwin Heights High School. 6'5", 250, defensive end, ranked number 14 player in the state, 3-star recruit. Interesting one. Offers from Boston College, Iowa State, Kentucky, Nebraska. He visited Kentucky back in November. He was at the Michigan State basketball game. Back in the old staff, Mark Staten was recruiting him. Mark Staten, a West Michigan guy. So Michigan State had put in some time with Ruquan, and the original plan was he was planning to decide in the fall. I've not heard whether that's still the case. I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't be. This spring, he wanted to visit Penn State, Indiana, and Iowa State. Couldn't do it for obvious reasons. Florida State's shown some interest. Some other offers include Oregon, TCU, West Virginia. He's a two-way lineman, offensive, defensive line. He prefers defense. Took a look at his film on offense. Plays some offensive tackle, and he plays low and athletic. He has good core strength. Dan Fernandez. With some style with that sponsorship. Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for checking in. I don't recognize your name, man. Feel free to post some questions. But Buckley, appreciate it, man. Buckley, the notes that I have on him, I like, he shows some core strength on both sides of the line, offensive line, defensive line. And he shows that core strength on offensive line the way he continues to run his feet after engagement. Got some good strength in there for offensive line. But in his junior film, you don't get to see his lateral movement. I'd have to look at complete games to get an idea of lateral movement and pass protection. In his highlights, it's all drive blocking, down blocking. I've not seen lateral movement for pass blocking. It would have been great to see him at camp to get a better idea of that. And it's good for him that he's deciding in the fall, I would say, because maybe get a chance to watch if they play high school football in the state of Michigan, get a chance to watch some of his senior film. Maybe it'll be a little bit telling, a little more telling, more revealing. No camps for him. Would have really liked to have seen him this summer. It's hard to get a read defensively on his initial quickness on offense or defense. Just the way the highlights are, it's a small spectrum of the type of plays, so you don't get that burst, something that you'd have seen in camp. I'm not saying he doesn't have it. It's just a question mark. The film doesn't answer that question. You also don't. He plays some defensive end, but you don't see him on defense turn the corner, which is so important. You see him taking on the point of attack and being strong and doing some good things. But if he had been at the t-shirt camps, you'd have seen him really test himself against similar athletes and got a chance to see if he had the hip flexibility, ankle flexibility, takeoff, and all those things to turn the hoop. I'm not saying that he cannot do it, but it's not apparent on film. As a blocker, the D linemen that he goes against on film are really, the people he's going against are atrocious in terms of their pad level. He's blocking guys that are standing straight up and he's square into them, and he's going against some guys that just haven't been drilled real well. So another reason I'd have liked to have seen him in camp, although in camp you don't wear pads, so you don't get to see a lot of physical. You'll see some hand-to-hand combat, but it leaves unanswered questions also. But I'd like to see the competition level from him. So there's some questions there, but he's a good frame, good athlete, good prospect, top 15 guy. And also, yeah, but when he beats them, he looks pretty explosive. But it's kind of hard when you're ragdolling somebody who's not very good. What does it mean? It's always a good question. Let's move on to question number 8. Stormy from Charleston, South Carolina says, my understanding is that teammates that are in the inner circle of COVID positive patients will be required to self-isolate for 7 to 10 days. True. If this is true, there is no way a college football season can take place. Each case of a positive COVID will place 4 or 5 players, or probably more, in isolation. What is your understanding of the protocol? You're exactly right. If you get into September and 2 offensive linemen test positive, they all hang out together. They're all going to be in the meeting room together. So does your entire offensive line shut down? I guess so. And you're right. You wouldn't be able to play unless COVID goes through your whole team before the season starts. It's a very wackadoodle thought, Orwellian thought. Nothing that I condone, but it's gone through my head. Did college football programs bring players back so soon to see if they could handle it in the meantime? And then maybe the curve would flatten nationwide, and maybe there'd be other mitigating circumstances. So if you get to fall and everything seems all clear, okay, good. That's good because we've got a football team ready to play. That might have been plan A. Plan B might be, okay, we get them on campus and there's still an outbreak, and then the students come in and there's an outbreak, and run for cover. Let's shut it down. But then you get to September and you look around and you got a lot of positive antibodies. I'm not saying that was the plan from the beginning, but that could be an end result. Or you get through it this school year and everything is clear in the spring. Not sure. But you're right. At some point when you get a couple of players and then they shut everybody else down for being around those players, yeah. Whereas a month ago when everything was flattening out, or maybe 2 weeks ago, it might have looked more possible that there might not be as many of infections. But now everything has changed in the last week and a half, and you make some great points. Let's go back to the live questions. Shaw Locke telling me that Jen just woke up. Okay, Jen, been sleeping since Monday. Let's get back to the real world a little bit. Shape up, okay, Jen? Glad to have you here. Tyler Miller says, what about Husky Stadium? I did mention that. Doors Fan 91 says they moved that bowl out of the Cotton Bowl into SMU's stadium. I didn't know that. Doors Fan telling me something I did not know. All right, so the old Cotton Bowl, it's used for what? The Oklahoma-Texas game, and that's it? Well, that's a game I'd like to see. So, still, I'd put that on the bucket list. Oklahoma versus Texas at the old Cotton Bowl. Put that on the list. Logan Augustine says, why do you think U of M is having such a great recruiting cycle this season? I know they always do, but this year it seems like they have a lot of momentum with top recruits. I don't see them having anything different than they normally do. And Ohio State continues to pull away. But yeah, they're ranked number 4 in the country right now, huh? So they've got 19 total commitments. That's by, let me see here what they are per recruit. Look this up. Per recruit, they are not so good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Michigan is ranked number 17 in the country in average stars per recruit. So they got 19 commitments, which is a lot. But when other programs like Alabama, Auburn, and some of those others, when they start filling up, they will pass Michigan. Michigan's got 19 right now. Nine 4-star recruits. That's pretty good. Not great, though. I don't think he's recruiting better than Rich Rodriguez did right now this year. So I would reject your thesis. What do we have here? One Mr. T-Bone says, I've been to Bama, Navy, Brown, Tennessee, and OU in Norman. Well, good for you, Mr. T-Bone. That's awesome. I'd like to be there. Tell me how Brown was. I know Brown versus Providence is a fun thing in hockey, right? Brown football. I don't remember ever seeing a Brown football game on TV. Remember when ESPN had a little contract? They played noon games, Ivy League games. That was kind of cool. Now CBS Sports Channel shows Ivy League games, And sometimes I'll turn those on and watch for about 5 minutes. I like it. Those guys are slow, afoot, not slow mentally. But Franklin Field in Philadelphia, I like that old stadium where the Eagles used to play. And I think the Philadelphia, what were they called in the USFL? They played there in the USFL. Perlis, the Stars, right? Philadelphia Stars. And Perlis was supposed to coach that team in the USFL. I remember the early days of the USFL. Well, there were only 2 days of the USFL. What, they have 3 seasons? 2 seasons? The Philadelphia Stars, they would play there, but there was no like locker room facility in Franklin Field at that time. So the locker room was like a block down the road. So they would get dressed and walk to the stadium in their uniforms. That was the USFL. But Franklin Field, the upper deck just looks old, classic. The upper deck is close to the field. I'd like to sit in the upper deck at Franklin Field and see what's going on. So put that on my list too. That might be, but they've got artificial turf, which blows. But Franklin Field, I'd like to go there and just kind of roam around in the concourse too. That's one of the things, like when you go to Notre Dame Stadium, to an extent, some of the other ones, Ohio State, Michigan, some of the others, walking around the concourse, you can feel the old parts of the stadium. Not Michigan, they don't really have a concourse, but Notre Dame certainly does. You can see the old brick, and it just feels like the old stadium. I appreciate that at Notre Dame Stadium. Seth Foreman says, JC, have you been to Harper's in the past 2 weeks? No, I have not. They had an outbreak that made national news there, right? Is it up to like 30 or 35 people that they've traced back to have been at Harper's, and they think standing in line was a problem. I've been hearing that the spread of it happens more at night than it does in the daytime. In the daytime, the ultraviolet waves of the sun, they're finding, at least that's the evidence right now. It changes all the time. But it spreads more rapidly, of course, aerosol, especially at night, especially indoors. But they're thinking that the line had something to do with it. I don't know. But no, I was not there. My brother-in-law saw the line, though. He was over minding his own business with his family. They were getting some Topopo and some cheese dip at El Azteco up on the roof. They're walking back, and they saw a line at Harper's, and they're like, that doesn't look like a good idea. And then, you know what happened. I heard that before. They were talking about the line before all this stuff happened. But there's a little bit of talk about. There's a little bit of an outbreak here locally too at the high school level. We've been hearing. So, I don't know, but you guys don't want to hear me talk about that. I apologize. Seth Foreman says, no. Hayden Roberts says, did you hear the Imani Bates news? Yeah. So he's not going to be reclassifying. His father says, and he's not leaving that school. So Izzo did call Bates' family the first day that juniors were allowed to take phone calls. So that was an indication that Izzo was continuing to recruit him. Others on the staff have told me it's not going to happen. The guy is definitely not going to be playing in college. Others on the staff have said we've not pressed the subject. The Bates family is very private, and they don't want to post him up and say, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to come out? Michigan State just recruited him. Whatever happens, happens. So Michigan State is just kind of like, finishing the race, and maybe there will be no race. But, yeah, it looks like he's not going to reclassify, which means he'll graduate not in 2021 but in 2022. And at that point, although the one-and-done rule will not be in effect in terms of being able to go straight to the NBA, they do have the elite G League thing, which with Bates will be at least $500,000 plus an enormous shoe contract. So there's no reason for him to spend a year in college if he's not going to classify. So that looks like that's the name of that tune. That's what it looks like now. Old Tuck says, I always liked Sebastian Small's running style. Do we have a back on the roster like him or Tyrone Crenshaw out of Los Angeles? Okay, that's Old Tuck with his reference to early 1990s Spartans. That's what Old Tuck do. And we appreciate the big toe. Sebastian Small was a big-time recruit. Where was he from? North Carolina? Big-time running back recruit. Michigan State got him because they did not get Ricky Powers, right? Michigan State versus Michigan for Ricky Powers. Michigan got Powers. Michigan State got Sebastian Small. Ricky Powers turned out to be pretty good. Sebastian Small, not so great. Moved him to fullback. Always had, carried some bad weight. Michigan State's strength and conditioning program back in the early 90s was not good. When Ken Manny arrived in 1995, that thing upticked quickly and positively. And Ken Manny turned some of those guys like Flozell Adams into an NFL player. If the previous strength staff and approach had remained in place in 95, 96, 97, Flozell Adams, my opinion, would have never amounted to much. Nothing against Flozell. I just think that Ken Manny really helped Flozell tap into his immense potential. So Sebastian Small. Would Sebastian Small have been better if he'd come in 3 years later and been part of the Saban Ken Manny routine? Probably so. But Sebastian Small never did much at running back in the early 90s. Neither did Tyrone Crenshaw. He's a pretty good recruit out of Los Angeles. Was High School Player of the Year in Los Angeles. That was Perlis's last recruiting class in 1994. Crenshaw lasted a year. Saban came in. He might have been around for another year, and then he transferred out and never to be heard from again. Let's go back to the mailbag. Gather round, gather round. MSU Polo out of Rockford, Michigan says, questions this week. The question this week is about Jamari Button. That's the linebacker from Belleville High School, a recruit. Corey Robinson dropped a little tidbit today saying that Button's commitment video is being filmed today, and a decision is very near. He's asking for a final prediction on where he commits. So Corey Robinson, ear to the ground there to hear that a commitment video has been filmed. Sometimes they'll film one and put it in the tank and reveal it at some point. I've never heard of someone recording a video and then changing his mind and the video never goes public. It's probably happened. I've just never heard that. So my thought is that I think Michigan State's been a little bit ahead of Penn State all along. Or not all along, but recently. And Michigan State has made it clear to Jamari Button that he is a very important part of this recruiting class. And I think he likes Tucker and Michigan State and the whole thing. My guess is that he filmed that with the Michigan State commitment. Just a guess. Confidence meter, 60%. Final prediction on where he commits. I'm not ready to give a final prediction right now, but that's kind of the way I read it right now. Ronnie M. says, Jim, what is your over-under for how many more years Tom Izzo will coach Michigan State basketball? Also, when he retires, what is your percentage confidence that his replacement is on the present staff? Like last week, big question, and that's something Izzo's never talked about. He talks about a lot of things off the record. I've never asked him about that. Maybe others have. Not many people I don't think he would open up to, but because he's got a lot of people that he really has a lot of respect for, and I don't think he wants, if he has a favoritism for anyone, I'm not sure he'd want it out there. That'd be really tight in-house. Izzo's 64, 65 years old? I think he'll coach to 70. Jim Boeheim is 74. I think Izzo looks at him and Krzyzewski and probably thinks, yeah, I could probably do that. Now, back when he was 50, he probably didn't have any idea that he'd want to coach till he was 72. But now that he's 65 and he can see that, he wants to coach long enough to win some more national titles. And as long as he feels energetic, he's going to keep churning it out. Now, his replacement, as far as assistant coaches go, you would look at Dane Fife, you'd look at Dwayne Stevens. Dwayne Stevens, very trusted confidant in all aspects of the program. Recruiting, player development, in-game adjustments, in-game coaching. Dane Fife, confidant in terms of, player development, defense, coaching. He's been a head coach before. So those are the guys. Those would be two that if all of a sudden Michigan State were looking for a head coach, you'd have to interview those two guys. And whoever's making the decision would have to ask Tom Izzo, who do you like? And which do you prefer? Might be uncomfortable for Izzo, but Izzo has an opinion on a lot of things, and he likes things to go. A lot of these guys are control freaks, right? He wants to hand off the program in really good shape to his successor, and he wants it to carry on as a program for generations to come. So he's going to want a guy that can help carry that on. I don't think he'll pass it on to somebody that he thinks it's just their turn. I don't think. I don't know who that might be. But honestly, man, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. And that is a big, key, pressing question. I said last week, or maybe on Monday, that I'd heard at one point that Izzo liked Boylan. Boylan went to Utah, didn't work out. NBA, bounced around with the Chicago Bulls now. I don't know if that would be, I don't know. But I would have to think Izzo would have a big say in it. And you would hope he would, right? Because he would know better than anybody, but people that name their own successors, a lot of times it doesn't work out that great. There's some items when it's worked out okay, but that's going to be a tough gig any way you want to slice it. Let me see. I think there were some more questions. Yeah, let me see here. That was the old list. Yeah, there were some more questions here. I'm just going to it right now. Wow, a lot more questions. Okay. We've got more questions here from Perrysburg, Ohio. Jim, how hard do you think we will have to fight to keep the committed kids in the fold? Faye, Brantley, etc. are players I expect to get a lot of pursuit as other dominoes fall. That's from Amos EO in Perrysburg, Ohio. He's been a SpartanMag.com subscriber since 2003. So thanks, Amos. Yeah, they're gonna have to keep fighting. This is a year where there's going to be more decommitments in the fall, and you're gonna have to fend off Hampton Faye, a Texas kid. I think he's gonna have a great football season this fall. The Brantley kid from Florida, yeah, gonna have to keep fighting him off. So yeah, a lot more than usual, especially out-of-state guys, and those are good ones. Spartan Law 04 says, and his name is Brandon from Parts Unknown, a story or two from the Coach Mark Dantonio era. Can you give us one now that you might feel more comfortable sharing? Well, with Dantonio, he was close to the vest on a lot of things. Stories about him, I would not divulge. I don't have anything negative or controversial about him. He was close to the vest. He was a very private person, a principled person. Got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great person. He'd be a great neighbor. So, even if I did have some dirt on Dantonio, I wouldn't share because I've got that kind of respect for him. Does that make me less of a reporter? Well, if it had to do with his team that I was covering, sure. But in terms of how you treat people, I've only seen him be an A+ person in terms of how he treats people. So, got a lot of respect for him. Did a great job at Michigan State. In terms of a story, you're asking if there's a story I can divulge now that he's no longer coaching. Now, there are sometimes you don't want to divulge a story because it might hurt his ability to do something. I don't like to mess things up for people. But there's like one thing that had to do with football that still, it's nothing controversial. It's just like a strategic thing that I'll still leave under the hood for a while because it could still, you don't want to give away a team's secrets if you're an X's and O's thing, if you happen to be privy to something until they're all gone, and then it'll no longer have an impact on future games. So like I always say, remind me and maybe later. And I've touched on it in the past. But Dantonio, the clue would be Dantonio and football espionage type of thing. And it has nothing to do with Michigan State conducting espionage at all. It has to do with paranoia about others spying on Michigan State. All right. Sherlock H. from Sterling Heights. He says, although he's currently vacationing in Burbank, California, he's from Sterling Heights. Well, good. Um, have a good trip in Burbank. Tell Bob Barker I said hello. One of the great game show hosts of all time. Probably the best. Not necessarily the best human being, necessarily. I don't know. Janice, I think, liked him. Anyway, do you think we should stick with Thunderstruck for the team when they come through the tunnel onto the field? And he says, my choices for clips to show before the start of every game. And he lists his 6 clips that Sherlock would like them to show on the scoreboard before Michigan State runs onto the field. No, I don't like Thunderstruck. Nothing against AC/DC. I like AC/DC, okay? It's not their best song. It's more fitting for football than some of the other songs. It's okay. You know? I don't know what would be better. It's just okay. Works okay. What do you guys think? You guys go ahead and post here whether you like Thunderstruck or give what other songs that you like. And also, do you think Michigan State should play a song between the third and fourth quarter? I was watching the Mel Tucker Instagram Live with my friends Kit Hoover and Crowley Sullivan a couple of days ago. They did a great job. That's a lot of fun. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. And Crowley would like to see Kool in the Gang. What song was it? Get Down on It. Now, I went back and listened to that song, and it's a good song. I like Kool in the Gang. And I like Crowley Sullivan, but I'm not sure that's I just don't know. It seems a little soft. I'd want either something just kind of out that crazy, the jump around type of thing. You can't do that, of course, or just something a little more aggressive. But what do I know? I'm not very good at that stuff. Sherlock, he lists 6 plays that he'd like to see on the Jumbotron before Michigan State takes the field. The finish of the 0-1 game against Michigan, TJ Duckett and Jeff Smoker. The end of the 2010 Little Giants play, Little Giants. 2013, Danicos Allen's tackle against Ohio State on 4th down. 2015, Geiger with the kick in the windmill celebration. 2015, LJ Scott reaching over for the winning touchdown Big Ten championship game. And 2015, Jalen Watts Jackson cluster punt. Those are good ones. Those are very recent. I would also want, I'd like to see something with Kurt Gibson, Levi Jackson, Lynn Shadnoy. I'd want to see some old stuff mixed in there. Bubba Smith, maiming somebody. So those are all good ones, but I would want some old ones in there too. And I know you can't run them that long. You can't show 20 minutes of clips. So maybe there'd be a rotation. 2 or 3 old ones, 2 or 3 new ones, and a different set every week, and some repeats here and there. I like it when you go to Iowa and they do, like, before the game, they show some old clips of Niall Kinnick from the old days, and that's pretty cool. There's something about black and white footage on a big Jumbotron that is pretty cool. Everything is color and digital and HD these days, so when you see something black and white, I think it's cool. I wouldn't want everything to be black and white, but it's got a texture to it. And at Jerry's World, whatever that stadium is called in Fort Worth or wherever it is, Arlington, where the Cowboys play, where the Cotton Bowl is now, going to the Cotton Bowl when Michigan State beat Baylor in 2014, the pregame on that huge center field or center of the stadium Jumbotron scoreboard, they were showing old highlights, including old Cotton Bowl highlights, like when Dickie Magle, I think for Alabama or TCU, I think it was Alabama versus TCU in the Cotton Bowl, when Tommy Lewis jumped off the sideline to tackle him. Great. When you see black and white video on that huge of a scoreboard, it was like football heaven. Maybe not football heaven, but just seemed like an historic event, an historic locale, an historic football game the Cotton Bowl is. And they left that stadium, but they brought some of that history with them, and I think it's great. They do that bowl really well. Griff Tannen, posting from Hill Valley, says, "Hey, Jim, what's your temperature check on a season this year?" No pun intended. 3 weeks ago, I was, 2 months ago, what did I say, like 15%? And then, man, 3 weeks ago, it was looking like 55%, 60%. A full season, maybe not. I think they're going to start a season. Although right now, like the guy posted a few minutes ago, if you start getting positive tests within the locker room and it goes around, you're constantly going to have to be shutting things down. I mean, do they resort to like having 2 sets of offensive linemen and they keep them separate so that they can have a bunch of walk-on replacements? Dude, I don't know. And you're getting ready to play, and then all of a sudden, you're all well and good, and you're all healthy, and you've got 60 players available, but you're getting ready to play BYU, and they can't play. Is that going to happen a few times? It could. And if it happens to this team and that team, at some point, then what happens if, the NBA decides to shut back down? And then does that set off dominoes like it did in the spring? Once one went down, there was pressure on all of them to go down. Although we know now, back then we weren't sure how deadly it was going to be. Now, knock on wood, doesn't seem to be as bad for many age groups as we feared in the spring. But if there's another spike and it's different, it could just keep changing. Not sure. But right now I still think they're going to start practicing, and they may even get to play a few games. But I suspect whatever begins is going to end in the spring. That's where I am today. What is today? June 26th? By next week, I could be changing that. But right now, I'm kind of thinking we could see some spring football. I'd be okay with that. Not ideal, but it sounds like that's something that that's one of the eventualities they've been working on. It's one of the options that they've got at their disposal. They just want to put something on the field and get that television money, but then they would still be losing half their money if there's no one in the stands. By the spring, if there's half the people in the stands, then they're only down 25% of their money. All right, John in Chicago says, what percentage chance would you give each of the 3 quarterbacks to be the starting quarterback in Michigan State's opener? Lombardi, Day, Thorne. I'm going to say Theo Day, 20%. Lombardi, 41%. Thorne, 39%. I don't know. The coaches don't even know. They've not seen them play yet. I'll throw that out there for not. Subject to change. Go Green 88 in Valparaiso, Indiana says, Jim, barring injury, who do you expect to be the starting 5 offensive linemen this year? And if relatively healthy, do you expect a noticeable improvement there? I'd like to see us get into the 4.5 yards per carry area. I agree with you on that. That would be nice, and they've not had that type of pound success in quite a while. Offensive line, I think you're going to see Jarvis, Reed, Allen, Arcuri, and I think the question is the 5th one at left guard, Luke Campbell or J.D. Duplain. I'll say Duplain. And that's based off of what we've seen from those players in the past and a Brad Salem, Mark Staten construct on things. Things could be a lot different with Kapilovic and Johnson. Maybe they will like Jordan Reed at guard. I don't know. Maybe they'll like Jarvis at tackle. He's played some tackle. I don't know. But I suspect those will be the 5. O.J. Sparty from Seattle, Washington says, go Green. He says, Jim, do you think if Michigan State wins fewer than 6 games this fall, that all of the positive halo regarding Coach Mel Tucker, all the positives regarding Tucker's recruiting approach and results will dissipate? Man, it took me a while to read that. I apologize. But O.J. Sparty, instead of saying Coach Mel Tucker, he put CMT. You know how that is at SpartanMag.com. Everybody puts CMD for Coach Mark Dantonio, or CTI for Coach Tom Izzo, or CMT for Coach Mel Tucker. I hate that. You do what you want, that's fine. But I have trouble with acronyms and initials processing who you're talking about sometimes. And right there, I just stopped to think what the coach's name is. Anyway, do you think if they win fewer than 6 games, it'll hurt the recruiting approach? He says, I have certainly been impressed to date. However, how effective will the sell message be to recruits if we have a terrible season? So 5-7, is that a terrible season? Not a good season. Terrible season might be a strong word. I wouldn't be shocked by a 5-7 season. They'll still be able to recruit probably about like they are this year. Maybe a little better because they'll have more time to get to know them and have them on campus and be around, so might be a little bit better. I do think this year's in-state recruiting class in the state of Michigan is pretty strong. So there's some pretty good talent there to try to get your share. I've not looked at next year's class to see how strong it is. But if they go 5-7, yeah, you're selling hope like Michigan's done in the past. You're not selling results, so it won't help. Will it dissipate the halo after 1 year? A little bit, but I think they'll just sell, hey, we got to get our own players. You're one of our players. We're turning it around. Look, we beat so-and-so. If you go 5-7, you probably beat somebody. Maybe you beat Michigan. Maybe you beat Penn State. And you point to that and say, that's what we're going to do on a regular basis. You're going to help us. They'll still be able to sell it. So I don't think it would dissipate that much. It'd dissipate a little bit, but it wouldn't take the program out of the kneecaps. Realtor Evan from Birmingham, Michigan, says, Jim, who from the previous coaching staff will you miss interviewing? Which coach would you consider a good hire if you were making a staff at another school? I'll miss interviewing Brad Salem. It was good to talk X's and O's with him. As he became offensive coordinator, he was a little bit more guarded, and that was too bad. Understandably, I guess. Mark Staten was always an intriguing, enjoyable interview. Which coach would I consider a good hire? Salem, I think, is a good offensive minded as a quarterback coach or elsewhere. Chuck Bulla is a good coach. He'll continue to be a good coach somewhere. So I think you could hire them anywhere. What do we have here? That's about it for those questions. Let's go back over to the live questions. Jacob Theory says, what did you think of the Big Ten's all-decade teams and all the Spartans that were represented? I didn't really go through it closely to look at it. It's my understanding that Cassius Winston was second team all-decade and Denzel Valentine was first team. I might have been inclined to go Cassius over Denzel, but Denzel did win National Player of the Year by somebody, right? Somebody voted him National Player of the Year? That's pretty strong. I've got no arguments with it. Tell me what you think. Florida, Flaw 317 says Ohio State got a bunch of string commits. Now not so much. Yeah, they loaded up and they got some great ones, but you only have so much room. You can't just keep. Thank goodness for other schools that you can't just keep adding commitment after commitment unlimited. That's what Woody and Bo used to do. That's one of the reasons. It was the Big Two and the Little Eight back then. They had good programs, had great recruiting pull. They'd bring in a class of 40, 50 kids. They would sign kids just to make sure Michigan State and Purdue didn't get kids. And they'd say, yeah, you're our running back. You're our guy. And you'd be like the 7th running back that they signed. And the running backs, they didn't know. They didn't know who else was signed until they enrolled because there was no internet. Recruits didn't communicate with one another. So it was a bunch of it was perfect for Michigan because they're a paper program and they've never had a problem lying to people. So there you go, Old Tuck. If you're looking for another reason to hate Michigan, it's just the disingenuous nature of a lot of things they do. But I find a lot of the things they do amusing. I'm glad they're there though because it feeds the rivalry, feeds college football and interest in it, and it's good. They were clean for the most part, I think, for a long time. So I give them credit for that. Lloyd Carr, I thought was good for college football. I know a lot of you don't like Lloyd Carr, but he was clean. If everybody was like Lloyd Carr, college football would be better. So I'm not always trying to hate on Michigan. Call it like I see it. When they do things that are less than noble, I'll say it. All right. Cameron Trigg says, and when they do things that are respectable, I'll say it. Sorry, Oltuck. I don't know. Cameron Trigg says, have you seen the videos of MSU basketball players practicing together? Anyway, I did not see Tillman, but Aaron Henry was there. Is there any new update on either Henry or Tillman? We talked about this a few days ago. Things were looking better for Aaron Henry, and you did see him practicing. I think that's at the barn, and I posted this in the Final Forum. There's a new barn gym in Holt that someone built. It's a private citizen. They built it, and it's pretty cool. It's a lot of it looked like knotty pine paneling, and it's got a woodsy feel to it. Real good basketball court, good facility. Those guys wanted to practice. They can't practice at Breslin. They couldn't yet until they tested twice. You can't go to the MAC. It's not open. Or any of these other gyms around town. You can't go to a high school. There's no place to play. But that gym, privately owned, it's open. They play there. You can rent it out for like $100 or something for an hour. So a lot of Michigan State players are playing there, basketball players. And there's video of it on Instagram, and that link is over at the Final Forum message board at SpartanMag.com. So, yeah, Tillman wasn't there, and I noticed that also, and I don't know what the word is on that, but Tillman will make an educated decision like Izzo says, and he will be waiting to see if there's an NBA team that will guarantee Xavier Tillman. If you are available and we are picking 25th, we are taking you. Or we are the Sacramento Kings and we're picking 27th. I don't know who's picking 27th. If you're available, Xavier, we are taking you. If he gets that type of guarantee from an NBA general manager, then he'll go pro, and he should go pro, and he'll have the blessing of the coaches. I asked around about that. I'm like, does that take place? Do NBA teams really make those type of guarantees to players, promises? And the answer I got is yes, they do that. They do that. And if he gets that, he'll go. If he doesn't get that, solid chance he comes back. That's what I hear. But he was not playing with them the other day. Not sure why. I don't know if there'll be any more videos like that, because starting now, they'll be able to play, I think, at Breslin. I think they'll be able to play in their home facilities now that they've had 2 clean tests. Again, thanks to Dan Simon for the sponsorship. Chrome Ziffy says, with Jamari Button set to announce his commitment date the first week of July, where do you think he ends up? I mentioned that earlier. I think Michigan State. Not promising anything, but that's my read right now. Drippy. Yo, how late am I? Had to wax the car. Okay, Drippy. That's fine. We'll allow that this time. That is a tardy for Drippy. That's his first. Drippy says, I was here at 9 and I saw Comp wasn't live, so I assumed no live tonight. Sorry about that, Drippy. Over at the bunker, I said we weren't going to go until 9:30. I was late getting off that baseball practice field today, and I texted from the baseball practice field. Had to get back, get some food for the kid, take a shower, and got here at about 9:30. So Masanari Katsumi says, Jim, you spoke very highly of Gabe Ervin last week. Now that he chose Nebraska, is there any remaining MSU running back target better than Donovan Edwards in your view? Estime, Logan Diggs. Great question. My man knows his running back talent. And I think Mr. Katsumi is a guy that gave us a really great sponsorship a few weeks ago in yen, I think. Anyway, appreciate you. Appreciate that if that was you. If it wasn't you, I still appreciate it, but thank you. Running backs, I thought Ervin was the guy that was right there with Edwards, if not better. I think I liked him better than Edwards. Estime and Logan Diggs, different types of guys. Better than Edwards, I won't say that, but I don't think it's a big step downward. I think they're different types of players, but I would say Diggs, Estime, and Edwards are all on a similar plane, very similar plane. The rankings are different, but I think they're on a similar plane. Good question, though. Drippy says, thoughts on Keon Coleman tweeting out MSU graphic on Tuesday after not putting us in the top 3. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know. But he's a Louisiana kid. Michigan State's got some ties down there. Southern Fried recruiting, man. Southern Fried recruiting. You saw some things with Gabe Neely. Now this with Coleman. Michigan State not wanting to be out of it. I don't know. What do I think of it? I don't know what to think of it, but it's Southern Fried Recruiting. Tyler Miller says, yeah, I saw that, which is weird. Why tweeting so much MSU stuff and not in the top 3? That's Tyler talking about Drippy's post about Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, outstanding looking wide receiver out of Louisiana. I lost my place again. What do we have here? Wow, there's a lot of these. I lost my place. Okay. All right, Jason Ritchie, all day IPA. Drippy, we ran out of spring water, so I purified water tonight, right? Water is very watery. Katsumi had something there for Drippy. Oh, we're talking about Justin Johnson, the running back from Illinois. I like Justin Johnson. I like his film a lot. And I don't think Michigan State, I don't know if I know they're not in as much with Justin Johnson as they are the others. Do they value the others over Johnson more? Maybe they do. I like Johnson a lot. I think Johnson's right there with Edwards. D-Pen saying that his sponsorship is late fee. Appreciate that. Tom Kelly. Hit the like button, you cowards. Listen to Tom Kelly. Hit the like button. We need likes. Thank you. Doors fan says, who's your favorite football player of all time? Mine is Dan Marino. Marino was my favorite pro for a while. So you're saying who's my favorite football player of all time? And I liked Marino a lot when he wore this one. A lot. I loved that Pittsburgh team when I was a kid. Marino would have been right there with me. You know, it's different now that I've gotten to know people. You know, I mean, Kirk Cousins, I'll root for that guy. I rooted for Hoyer, you know. Javon Ringer, you know. But in terms of watching people, when I was a kid, Billy Sims. Maybe that explains that. Billy Sims was my favorite Lion of all time. You know, Franco Harris. Loved the Steelers. As a big Steeler fan. As a kid, I was impressionable. I was a bandwagon jumper. So Franco Harris, Billy Sims. You know, the guys that carried the ball, right? Michigan State guys. You know, Lorenzo White. Loved watching him play, right? In terms of knowing people, you know, it was always exciting to watch Julian Peterson for 1 year. Ike Reese. I liked Ike Reese. Ike Reese would be way up there. You know? Good question, though. But Dan Marino, I liked him a lot. So he would be on my radar for that. D-Pen says, as Comp said, if any of you are current or past Spartan alumni board members, hit up Dave. There's the phone number. So if you're like an alumni club president, call Dave, and we got some things going with some alumni clubs, which could be cool. You'll probably be hearing more about that in the future, whether you're a club member or not. Dali says, you feel good about us signing all of our current football commitments? Probably not. There'll probably be somebody that doesn't sign with Michigan State. I wouldn't be able to say who that might be, but chances are someone in that group of 10 commitments is going to decommit at some point and sign elsewhere. Just percentages, I would say. And this being a different type of year with early commitments, players not visiting campus, and then when things open back up again, it's probably natural to happen. Now, does Michigan State get somebody who's committed elsewhere right now? Could happen. Wouldn't doubt it. As a matter of fact, probably more than 50% chance that'll happen. Carter O 917 says, just got here. Sorry if it's already been asked. But out of Andrell Anthony, Rayshon Benny, Jamari Button, Damon Payne, how many would be realistic to land? Anthony, Benny, Button, Payne. I think 2 is realistic. 3 would be good. 4 would be a full house. If they get 4, that'd be really interesting. But I think Button, I think Anthony, solid chance. Benny, maybe less than 50%, but realistic, 2. The over-under in Vegas is probably 2. Doors Fan 91, always feel like the kids MSU wants seem to want to wait out things before they commit versus other schools who get commitments faster. I don't know if you're talking about football or basketball. Justin Thin says, regarding the running back recruiting chatter above, I just want to point out that Corey said Estime and Edwards are the entire recruiting board. Earlier today on the bunker, that's it. Not Diggs, Johnson, etc. I'd heard that Michigan State was kind of not into Johnson as much. The Diggs thing is news. So it's Estime and Edwards. They're going to battle Rutgers for Estime. They're battling Michigan for Edwards. That'll be tough. So chances are they end up with Estime, maybe. I don't know. Rutgers is going to keep battling. A chance they end up with neither. Solid also. But Michigan State's battling. And Will Peagler is going to be a good recruiter. And this is his first shot at the title. Mike B. Jim, have you heard anything about a junior defensive end from Rochester Adams? Kid's about 6'4", 230, started on football and basketball team. Really nice footwork. Wondering if you've heard anything about him. No, I've not heard about him yet. Paul Fansom says, Dr. Green and White is in the house. Thank you, Dr. Green and White, for the house call. David N. says, do you expect to have better access to the program in the Mel Tucker era? In some ways, yes, I think so. He's in favor of assistant coaches doing interviews, which had dried up here in the last 2 years at Michigan State. So more of that. I think already you're seeing, I think there will be a little more access. I don't think there's going to be more practice access, but I think Tucker's available for more offbeat interviews here and there. And as it gets going, will he be somebody that you can just call up if you've got a question? Izzo gives people the bat phone, and you don't want to, I got a little dust on these helmets. You don't want to use up the bat phone privileges too often, unless there's really something like, dude, something's going on. I'm going to be on a talk show. They're going to ask about it. What can you tell me about this? So Izzo gives out his bat phone. Will Tucker do it? I could see him doing that. Tyrone Garland checking in from Oak Park, Illinois. Good to see Tyrone Garland. Nils Deco, JC, is this going to be the biggest and longest team of the Izzo era? We have tons of bigs. I don't know. I mean, think back. There were some tall teams when Drew Namick was around. Was Namick on the team with Ebach? Is this going to be the, Nils, you would know better than I would. You've probably already thought it. So if you think it might be, then it probably is. I don't know. Tyler Miller. Can his former Flintstone players be one of the coaches? Talking about Izzo? As assistant coach or head coach? I don't foresee that right now. Doors Fan 91. Bob Eubanks and Gene Rayburn, my favorite game show hosts. Eubanks was born in Flint. Eubanks, there's something that's kind of smarmy about Eubanks. And I saw Eubanks, Tyler Miller asking about head coach. A former Flintstone be a head coach. You're talking about what, like Antonio Smith, Mateen Cleaves? Once upon a time, Cleaves might have been a possibility if, as after his playing days, if he'd gotten into coaching, obviously, assistant coaching. Instead, he went the broadcasting route, and then he got into some trouble. Now he's kind of off to the side a little bit. He's working for Ishbia now. So Cleaves, Bell's not coaching. Morris Peterson's not coaching, so no, I don't see that at all. Bob Eubanks, though, kind of smarmy, the newlywed game. And I saw something late at night last night on one of those cable channels, and it was Bob Eubanks, with pitching some product for elderly people. And, hey, we're all getting old, and I'll be old someday, but Bob Eubanks, he looked old. But I give him credit. He's still working. He's still smarmy. He's still doing his thing. But, no, I cannot agree with you, Doors fan, about Bob Eubanks. Gene Rayburn on the old match game. Remember when it used to be called like match game whatever the year was? Whatever the year was, it'd be like match game 75, match game 76 back in 1976. Those were the good old days, right? Maybe they weren't that good. Gene Rayburn was all right. Richard Dawson going up and down, kissing all those girls. That was strange, wasn't it? Sajak. Rolf Benershka, Chuck Woolery. Anyone remember that Chuck Woolery was the original host of Wheel of Fortune? Wink Martindale, Jack Barry, Joker's Wild. A friend of mine used to do a Wink Martindale impression. It was kind of funny. Anyway, I'm going to stick with Barker. Nils Deco says, loved Gene's microphone. I was going to say that. Gene Rayburn had that microphone that was like, he had, you're right, Nils. Rayburn had a unique microphone. Rayburn being going around with that microphone, had a different microphone. Gosh. MSU number one fan says, what do you think about Tucker? Before they come out, they should play Sweet Caroline. At the beginning of the third, at the third, beginning of the fourth, they should play We Are the Champions. Well, I don't know if you want to play We Are the Champions. It's kind of a downer song, and you don't want to play that unless you actually are the champions after you've won a championship, so I'm going to disagree with that. I appreciate your input on that because I asked for some of you to give your thoughts on what song, but I'm going to say no on We Are the Champions. Doesn't quite fit. Sweet Caroline, Before They Come Out, really? Not a bad song. Nothing against Neil Diamond. University of Pittsburgh plays that, I think, between the third and fourth quarter. That's kind of their song. It's just not like a song that, like when you're getting ready for a game and getting ready to charge out of the tunnel. That's not going to do it for me, my man. So you've lost DJ privileges. Just got to call it like I see it, but thanks for playing. Drippy says, need a more hype intro song, in my opinion. I agree with that. MSU fan says, how about Kerncraft 400 before they run out? I'll have to look into that. I don't know what that is. Maybe I'm showing my age. Maybe you were being funny when you said that. Trying to be sarcastic. I don't know. Drippy says, All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. Hands down, best intro song. That's usually something you play after you've won a game, especially in basketball. I think University of Michigan did that for a few years. Not bad, but before you come out, I don't know, but I'll take that. I'm just going to sit here like the Joker in Joker's Wild, and I'm just going to say yes or no. Nope, next. Nope, next. I'm not going to give you what I think. I'm just going to sit here and say nope, next. Old Tuck says, all right, MSU fan number one says, what do you think of the little brother comment? Michigan fans, listen, Sparty is the older brother. I don't know what that means. Johnson, the running back from Illinois, is a stud. Brian Bemis says, and I agree with that. And that's going to wrap up another edition of Spartan Mag Live. Thanks for those of you playing at home. We've got lovely parting gifts for all of you. Actually, we don't, but thanks. And we will see you probably next Friday. Maybe we'll throw a bonus one out at some point. Somebody said last week we should have a surprise one at some point. I don't know. That would be cool. And this is a cool helmet. That's a cool helmet. Anyway, appreciate everybody checking in and all the continued support for myself and SpartanMag.com and our entire staff. We truly appreciate it. Thanks for hanging with us. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Spartan Mag Live.